Well, hello, good afternoon, 12th F and 12D. As you are aware, you know, today morning I have sent you Indigo Part 1, and in our classes today, we have completed Indigo. Those of you who have not attended the class, you know, I'll advise them to listen to the video. Most of the lesson is covered there, and less than half of the lesson was covered today in the class. So you listen to the video, read the whole lesson, and if you have any problems, you can send in your voice notes on WhatsApp. For the time being, in this voice note, I'll discuss questions and answers with you. That is understanding the text and talking about the text. So this will not be a very long one. Um, uh, let's take up the questions. Question number one in the section called Understanding the Text. Why do you think Gandhi considered the Champaran episode to be a turning point in his life? Now, this is a very important question. You see, uh, the first reason why Gandhi considered the Champaran episode as a turning point in his life is that it is during Champaran action or Champaran episode that he decided to demand complete freedom from Britishers. The Champaran episode took place in 1917. Before that, you see, leaders, all national leaders, including Mahatma Gandhi, um, demanded home rule, that is, limited autonomy or self governance. Uh, in Champaran episode, one event made Gandhi realize that he should go for complete freedom. Um, when he spoke to um the secretary of the Landlords Association and asked him to give information about the situation prevailing in Champaran, the secretary told him that he could give no information to an outsider. Gandhi immediately replied that he was no outsider. Now, it was for the first time that he realized that Indians were treated as outsider within India, and this came as a big jolt and shock to Gandhi. And so he decided to demand a complete freedom from the Britishers. He decided to urge the departure of the Britishers from India. This is the first reason. The second reason is that Gandhi became a mass leader after Champaran episode. Until 1917, he was not so popular amongst the masses. The educated people and the leaders, of course, knew him, and he was an influential personality, but he didn't have any mass following. In fact, at that time, he hadn't even heard the name of Champaran. He didn't even know that there was a place in India called Champaran. Um, so when he went to Champaran um, to help the indigo sharecroppers and started his activities there, his strategy, he applied his strategy of satyagraha and non-violence, cooperation, sorry, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, etc. When the peasants, the masses started supporting him, and he was even able to influence the um, important people, lawyers, etc. Moreover, uh, in the court, he clearly declared that he wanted to obey the voice of his conscience, and he wanted to render the humanitarian and national service, which was in conflict with the British law. That is why he had broken the law. Otherwise, he didn't. I mean, he had full respect for the laws, and he did not want to set a bad example as a lawbreaker. So, for all these reasons, he considered Champaran episode to be a turning point in his life. Now, how was Gandhi able to influence lawyers? Give instances. Look, when there was, in Champaran episode, at one stage there was a possibility that Gandhi could be imprisoned. At that time, Gandhi asked the lawyers what would they do if he was sent to jail. The lawyers replied that they had come to aid and advise him, and if he were he was sent to jail, sorry, if he was sent to jail, then there would be nobody to advise, and that they would go home. At this, Gandhi asked them what would happen to the injustice to the sharecroppers. Um, the lawyers then withdrew and consulted. They realized that Gandhi was totally a stranger, and still he was willing to go to jail for the sake of the sharecroppers. Whereas the lawyers who were the residents of the adjoining districts, they were not strangers, and at the same time they claimed to have served the cause of the sharecroppers. You know, they claimed it. So in this situation, if they go home, then it would be a shameful desertion. It would be a matter of great shame for them. So um, you know, in this way, they were convinced, and they went to Gandhi and told him that they were willing to go to jail along with him. So this is how Gandhi was able to influence the lawyers. What was the attitude of the average Indians in smaller localities towards the advocates of home rule? Well, in smaller localities, the people were rather afraid to show sympathy or to give shelter to the advocates of home rule. That's because, those people who were demanding home rule were targeted by the Britishers, and so in smaller localities, people feared that if they helped uh, those people who supported home rule, then the Britishers would harm them. So, people were generally afraid of it. How do we know that ordinary people too contributed to the freedom movement? Well, there is enough evidence in the text to show that ordinary people also contributed to the freedom movement. Rajkumar Shukla, who was a sharecropper, he came to the Congress convention in Lucknow and requested Gandhi to accompany him to Champaran to help the sharecroppers' cause. and he accompanied Gandhi everywhere, and finally he succeeded in bringing Gandhi to Champaran. Moreover, various volunteers like Narhari Pare and Desai and their wives, volunteered for the work of teachers when Gandhi appealed. Apart from this, you know, thousands of peasants supported the mass movement when it came to um, when Gandhi was in trouble with the authorities. So, the ordinary Indians too um, supported the leaders and contributed significantly to the freedom movement. Without their support, leaders alone perhaps could not have achieved freedom. So, in this case, instead of referring to details which are not in the text, please don't refer to those details which are not in the text. Refer to only those examples and details which are mentioned in the text. Like I have just pointed out, Rajkumar Shukla, uh, Narhari Pare, Mahadev Desai, and their wives, and the peasants, you know, uh, mention such examples. Uh, sorry, don't mention incidents like Jallianwala Bagh or etc. Mention only those examples or details which are given in the text. So now we come to talking about the text. We have been asked to discuss freedom from fear is more important than legal justice for the poor. Well, you can agree or disagree with this statement. It depends on what you think. If you feel that justice is more important, then you can go for that. You can say that justice is more important because, you know, uh, um, even if a person is frightened, if justice is given to him, ensured to him, his fear would disappear. But then, this to me, this statement seems to be correct because what is more important is freedom from fear. Usually, poor people are frightened. What happens is that those who are rich, they exercise their influence and they even use muscle power to threaten the poor people. And so they use money, they use muscle power, and they frighten the poor people. So very often they don't even go to the court, or even if they go to the court, they withdraw their cases. That is why it's generally the poor who suffer. So if the poor are really, you know, free from fear, then they would pursue their objective, then they'll try to get justice for them, and only then justice can be given to them. So, on these lines, you can elaborate. Now, do you think that the people of the poor of India are free from fear after independence? Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think so. The landlord system is still continuing in so many areas. In Bihar, bonded labor still exists, and poor people are still exploited and cheated. As we have seen in case of stories of stolen childhood. The bangle makers, even if they try to do something different, they are beaten, hauled up, jailed, accused of something, and so on. So, poor are still very much frightened. Those who are living in slums, they do not have resources, they do not have muscle power, they do not have money power in particular. So, they are still frightened. Now, there can be one point that is maybe we are not sure, but perhaps their situation has improved. Their plight has mm, changed a bit. Some change has come, no doubt, after independence. But to say that the poor are completely free from fear would be wrong, perhaps. So, this again is a subjective question. You know, it's for discussion. I don't think they'd be asking such questions in the exams. Anyway, prepare them. You can go along this line, you can agree or disagree. Then they ask us to mention the qualities of a good leader. Well, what I'll suggest is that you can try writing a paragraph on it. Um, um, you know, and mention the qualities of a good leader. I'll give you some hints. A leader must have a vision. A leader must have a personality and ability to influence people, influence masses. The people should follow him. He should have a following, and not only following, but he should be able to influence people. You know, people should rather obey or do as the leader wants them to do. And without vision, no leader can succeed. Uh, a leader should have this ability uh, to come up with um, a vision or a certain policy for a country. He should offer solution to all the problems of a country, or leadership at different stages. We are not just talking of a political leader. We can have a social leader, for example, who can influence society. So, two things: one, having a vision; two, a personality or ability to influence people. And of course, a leader should be modest, a leader should not be selfish. Um, um, if we take the example of Mahatma Gandhi, if self interest is involved, then you know, perhaps the leader um, cannot do much good to his followers. Well, of course, some self interest would be there, but that doesn't mean that, um, in other words, what I mean to say is that a leader should not be selfish. He should not look for benefits or advantages or profit or good of his own, of his family, of his area, of his region, of his caste, of his religion, and even of his own country. A world leader, for example, should look at, um, should have a world vision. So this way you can think about it and um, um, try writing it. And or if you wish, you can share the share your views on WhatsApp group. I'll be happy to offer comments on that. Now, one thing I'd like to quickly mention here, they ask us to list the words used in the text that are related to legal procedures. Some of the words like uh, deposition, prosecutor, um, you know, mm, bail, and such other words in the text are used for in the context of law, legal procedures. So you can scan the text for such words and add to your vocabulary. While doing the text, I have given you the details and meanings of all such words. This is for your improvement of your language. So, you see, the rest of the exercises. If you want, you can do on your own. Uh, we have, sorry, look, we have finished the questions and completed the exercise, and we have completed this particular lesson as well. Now, when we meet on Tuesday with, I'll be meeting with 12F hopefully on Tuesday and with 12B on Thursday. So we'll be starting Vistas. We are left with two lessons from Vistas, that is on the face of it and Evans tries and O level. The plan is that keeping the time in mind, I'll do the first one, that is uh, on the face of it in detail, and I'll give you a thorough summary of Evans tries and O level so that you're able to answer all the questions. That is a detective story and a very long one. It would take a long time, so many periods to complete if we do it. Moreover, that book is meant for extensive study, for self-study habits. That is not meant for close study. उसमें एक एक वर्ड को समझना ज़रूरी नहीं है, बल्कि एक एक पैराग्राफ, एक एक एपिसोड को आप समझ लेते हैं तो वो काफ़ी है. So that book is a bit different. So we'll do on the face of it in detail and discuss Evans tries in O level, and we will try our level best to finish our course by 10th of December. Even if for some reason we are not able to meet for our regular classes, I'll keep sending you the voice notes from time to time. But please remember that on every class day, at your at the scheduled time, please join the meeting. Sometimes, like today, I was unfortunately a bit late in joining the meeting, so at least wait for some time, like 20 25 minutes, and then of course you can switch off, that is hang up. So you know um, please attend the classes regularly. I notice just two or three, or even sometimes even four or five students attend the class. Please don't do that. Um, so attend the classes, and I'll be posting this on your WhatsApp group, this voice note, as well as on Team and the YouTube channel as well. So that's all for the day. We will now meet according to our timetable next week. Thank you very much.